Steve. Jeff. We'll find out, because this has got to be answered. These people have got a lot to answer for. These people have a lot to answer for. We need one company does it all, not one company does 26,000, 126,000, 30,000. We need one company that does.
Good evening, everybody.
And these two things, we just got the paperwork at 5:02.
I call to order the Bethany City Council meeting for February 20th, 2018. Please rise for the invocation and the flag salute. Mr. Knapp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight I'd like to introduce Mr. Lee Gurrell, and he will be leading us in the flag salute. Mr. Gurrell served active duty in the U.S. Army for 3 years in Germany, and until about 1961, when construction just got started on the Berlin Wall. He returned to the States, and he went on to serve in the Army Reserve for 27 years, for a total of 27 in active duty and reserves. Many of those years working at Western Electric, just south of Bethany here. He moved to his current residence here in Bethany in 1993. He has a son and 6 grandchildren in the Corpus Christi area, and his daughter and 1 granddaughter live right here in Bethany with him. So, Mr. Gurrell, if you'd lead us in a flag salute, we would certainly appreciate that.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Harris, will you lead us in prayer tonight?
Precious Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come together and to honor all that you have done for Bethany since the beginning. And we pray for wisdom and for guidance as we make decisions this evening, and know that you will go before us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Item 1 tonight is the consent docket, and I had a couple things I wanted to ask, or even possibly make a motion to table. The item F with the ImageNet, and my thought process is the review that we have going on right now, and I'd kind of like to know, like, how does staff think it's working with them and that kind of stuff. I understand the reasoning to this is just to make it so it matches up with our
just for
June
the budget
cycle.
year.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that something that we could, what's everybody else think as far as?
I have a similar question, but mine has to do with all of our computers. It seems like it might be worth having them all on the same contract or somehow managed by the same company, and we seem to have a lot of different people handling our computer stuff.
What computers are you talking about? These computers?
There are items in the budget. I understand that ImageNet is different, but if they could all go under one company or one contract.
Well, I think the consent docket provides that, like ImageNet Consulting, we paid them $3,800 for 3 Dell systems with monitors. I couldn't get onto the Laserfish system to confirm whether or not that was a good price or not, but that's it seems like we are paying them an inordinate amount of money for a lot of computer services, and that's just something to consider and watch, which is what I'm concerned about. And obviously, if it could be done cheaper for a better service, I mean, that's something we should always consider in my mind. And correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me what the staff or the considerations are and the justification for that, and maybe that's something we can talk about.
Well, I'm sorry, if you're asking me, I think staff is extremely happy with ImageNet. As far as the cost of those computers, there are other intangibles built into that. Example, going from one computer to the next computer is part of that price. The guarantee that's built into that. The same company that we have with, I'm guessing that you're talking about when you're wanting to put everything together under one. Right now, ImageNet takes care of the Laserfish. It takes care of the managed IT, which is, I mean, that's kind of all together under one. The only thing they don't take care of is our website, and that's they don't do websites as far as I know. I haven't actually checked into that. I think staff is very happy. I know we're very happy with Laserfish, and I'm pretty sure we're very happy with the managed IT. If we have a problem, we let them know. We're in contact with them in one way or another almost every day. They're taking care of a couple of different networks. Now, the only thing they don't deal with is the police department. The police department has had the same company for a number of years, and they're very satisfied with the company that they have, and I'm not going to try to change that. I think staff is extremely pleased with who we have right now. I know that the security is top notch, and that helps one sleep a little bit later in the day. But
I know they were connecting didn't we do a tunnel between here and the court or something?
Right.
Between the two buildings? Is
Right.
that connected, or was
Well,
that to connect everything? Or
the tunnel is done, the tube is run, but I have the actual connection on my desk. I'm just not ready to bring it to you yet. I wanted to get all this taken care of before we worried about that. So,
Are you looking for a motion to table item F until we look into, I know that staff is happy, I know the council's very unhappy, so. Council's very unhappy with
I'm asking, that's
Laserfish.
why I asked
I know we all
input.
try to look on Laserfish, Mr. Shire can't get on there, Robert can't get on there, I can't get on there.
When does
We're
that
very-
contract expire, Steve?
the contract expires on the 5th of November, the 5th of March.
When was it? When did we start with them?
A year
It's
ago.
been about a year. I mean, I use Laserfish all the time. I don't have a problem.
Well, and I wonder if the problem is that if it's the problem getting online, or if it's actually a problem with the way the Laserfish is set up. I know you can get on it. Now you can't actually do anything with it other than look at it, and that's by design. It's set up that way.
Can anyone delete anything from Laserfish
No.
at all?
No.
No one. No one has a.
As far as I know, no one can. And
Not-
if
I
they,
didn't mean
if
as
they
an
have, I would
administrator.
love to know, because that's a big no-no.
So this is essentially a 3-month extension.
This is a 3-month extension to get us back into a budget year, so that instead of sitting here arguing and getting this taken care of now, we can do it as part of the normal budget process.
Could we possibly pass this for the next 3 months, and then that'll give staff time to dig into it, possibly send it out for bid again?
I would be concerned that if you let the contract expire, you're not gonna have any service. And that's gonna be here before you do it. Today's the 22nd, so
Isn't it a sole source?
you're looking at 11 more days and it's gonna expire.
Laserfish is a sole source.
We do need to RFQ our leaders, right? We should have everything under one roof, and maybe not the police, but I mean everything should be under one company.
Well,
Looking
used
back
before.
to, I was talking about what I was seeing here was copier vendors and not computer vendors. We have a lot of copier vendors.
Who was it? Who did we have service with before?
The one we had before was the same one the police department currently has.
Why did we change a year ago? Remember?
We got
Public bid.
We got a better price, yeah. We went out for bid, and this company won the bid. The police department, the company, and I'm sorry, I can't recall what the name of it is, declined to bid, and till right to the very end, they said they were trying to get out of the business of the smaller companies like us. And then right at the end, they said, well, okay, we've kind of changed our mind, we want to do it, but by then, they were way out of scale. So we did bid a year ago, and this is who we went with. Plus the fact they are with Laserfish. Laserfish is sole source, so if we want to stay with that company, we stay with ImageNet. I mean, that's who does Laserfish.
But we could go out for bid in June,
Yeah.
again, to
Yeah.
see what,
Yeah.
who.
There's other companies that have things like Laserfish. I mean, that's not the only way you can account for things in a system. I mean, there's plenty of other ways to account for
Right,
things.
there's other,
But we have so many different things between internet and safety and backups and this and that. It should be sole source and website. It should all be one company, and there are plenty of companies that do it. I mean, plenty.
And for purposes of my involvement and use and reliance on ImageNet, maybe we can have some additional training for, let's say, some council member who cannot get on Laserfish, who needs a little more guidance to get to that point. But the other thing I didn't appreciate was the fact that we had some email issues, and that directly affected me. So I can't find those emails. I don't know where they are. And that's something that concerns me to the extent that, I want to use that. I want to have a reference so that I can track and look and see. But for some reason, those, I guess they're still there, but they're, when we changed to Microsoft 365, then do we have a backup of those emails, that kind of thing?
we'll have to ask, I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, if we're
I
paying,
know we had several other employees that had problems, and yeah, they went back and found them, they were on their own computers, and they just had to feed them back through, was the issue.
okay.
Do we keep, and I won't keep beating this, but do we keep, as a city or organization, copies of like the RFPs on things that we do, decisions we make? Okay. So we could see those RFPs as far as a year ago with this company?
Right.
Okay. I don't necessarily have to motion to table this or something. I wanted input from everybody up here, thoughts, just because of my questions.
I move approval of the consent docket.
I've got
Well, I
one
had
more.
one more question though on item D. Is there a way we could get a report on the court, like a court report, as far as why the cash deposits are considerably decreasing every month? Because I was looking at it in like a July of 16, it was 125,000 plus, and then July of 17, it's 76. And I've heard different things. People say, well, it might be this, it might be that, and I would assume that over there they would be able to pinpoint what the cause of that is, because it seems to continue to drop. I mean, is that
Yeah,
doable?
we can see what we can come up with. Yep.
Well, one more thing, and we discussed this in detail, I know, but Mr. Shiry's been asking for that for quite some time, and we hadn't received, as far as I know, nothing.
Well, he was requesting the number of citations from the police department.
Right, but he also, before that, has talked dollars.
My question was.
Down here. No, it's not. I turned it off. Okay, I'm back. The question that I had was, why are our overall fine proceeds down? The municipal court comparison shows that in February of this year, or last year, I should say, 17, we issued 604 citations, and in February and in January, we issued 732. In March of 17, we only issued 389. In April, it went down to 355, and it's been down ever since, and to as low as a 330 per month issuance of tickets. And my concern was at that time, was it the state law that changed that pulled the DUIs out of the city of Bethany, the cause of this?
Well, I think that was, and we've discussed this, I think that was a major part of it, is that we lost the citations and we lost the income of that. At the same time, right now, I believe the Oklahoma County District Attorney's Office is running 16 assistant district attorneys below staff, which then requires our police department, instead of being able to say, okay, here's the case, our staff is now putting together the cases before they get to take them to county, and plain and simple, those cases don't write themselves. Police officers have to be sitting in a station writing those cases. And so where we used to, you have to have police officers in the street writing tickets. If they're in the station writing cases or that kind of stuff, they're not writing tickets. But I will see what we can do about coming up with the exact reasoning.
Well, where's the oversight on that? That's where they should be tied together. JR, I would think as a finance director, would have that every day, a report every day of what's been done over there, coming in.
He gets deposits every day.
But he doesn't get a report.
Of citations issued every day?
Well, not citations, just the dollar. I mean, what the citation's being paid on, like a code of whatever, running a stop sign or.
No, I think
blah,
he's
blah, blah.
getting,
I mean, they should match up.
to what now?
We get what's collected.
Yeah, he gets the collections every day.
But
How
he doesn't
long
know what-
ago, excuse me,
He doesn't know what they're for. There's not an accounting of it, that's what I'm saying.
how long ago did we start using the collection agency? Because they're going to have a bump when they start being used, and then that will go down, and that's what I had attributed it to. But I don't know how long ago that was.
Well, again, we'll have to check on that too, because it's been over a year, well over a year ago, yeah.
What kind of amount of decreases are we seeing? Do you recall?
You can look at it and, I don't remember what page it's on.
I'm looking at here at, we're 53% down on ticket issuance, and, the least amount has been 8.9 in 1 month, which was April of 17, or August of 17, and, in October of 17, it was 53%. There's something here that just does not connect to me. That type of ups and downs that have happened, and over the years that I've been here, this fund, this municipal court has remained relatively stable as far as that goes. The only thing that I can explain is the fact that they've removed the DUI from our purview, and also we're having to make out all the records for them. I think there's something that needs to be negotiated or talked to with the county attorney, if it can be done, to let him be aware of this.
Even before the law changed, we took a lot of DUIs to county anyways to let them handle them. So it's not like we were doing all the DUIs and now we're not doing any. Before, we weren't doing all the DUIs either.
We were doing
I just can't.
vast majority of them here. The only ones we weren't were the repeat offenders.
I was just looking at the cash bonds, July 16, it was, 125,000, almost 126, and as of last month, we're down to $73,000 coming in. And so that was just kind of my question. It's just a steady decline, and I was just curious if we could just get some kind of report as to what we think is causing that.
And I had one more item on the consent docket. There was a line item for $10,000 for envelopes. Is that the water bill envelope? Our famous water bill envelope? Okay, so we have a,
That was due to the fact that our printer would not take that, which goes back to just the case that we brought up before on item F, I believe.
Does ImageNet handle that also?
Do they handle that?
Who handles those envelopes that don't work?
It's a very similar sounding company. It's ImageWorks that actually provides the Rizzo machine and they require a certain size envelope on the outside envelope to go through the machine. Now, the interior envelope we can buy elsewhere at a discounted rate, but the actual exterior envelope that holds everything together has got to come through them. And it was just cheaper to buy them this way and not run out this time.
When is that? Is that a annual contract, or?
No, that's just simply a supply of envelopes, and it will last us approximately 3 months.
And y'all are, with man hours, y'all are hand stuffing these things now, right?
No, right now, well, I say that, the machine failed to work this morning, but we will be calling the vendor and they'll be out repairing it tomorrow morning. So,
That's ImageWorks,
ImageWorks,
not
not ImageNet. And believe me, I get confused on that myself, so, but they are two entirely separate companies.
sounds like it.
And again, 10,000 sounds like a lot of money, but it really is what it takes to put out that many bills a month for just 3 or 4 months.
is that the best price we can get?
That's the only price we can get. Those are a copyrighted item. And we checked across the country to try to find a better deal on those envelopes, and there is no better deal. So, yes, I had the same question here just a couple of months ago, and that's why we went through this process. I had Deanne actually contact everybody we could come up with across the country to supply envelopes, and that's what we found.
Are you talking about the return envelope?
No, these are
not
the
big enough.
envelopes that hold all of it together, that the outside of the
It's
bill
the
that you
wrapper, is
receive.
that what you're saying?
Yes, the wrapper,
The one you have to
the
tear
one
up
that
to get
everybody
into.
loves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I'm satisfied. We can get a report on that, hopefully, on item D and item F
Can I make
in
one
June.
comment?
We could, yeah, sure.
Special event, not a big deal, the fireworks. When we have special events, are all the neighbors within the vicinity, are they notified of street closures or fireworks being let off? Is there any system to notify everybody that it immediately affects?
They are not.
Okay.
And in this situation, again, it's gonna be directly in front of the business, and it's just the little Black Cat fireworks. And, that's
Are they
all.
closing the street for that?
No, they're just closing 2 parking spots.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no street closure at all.
Councilman Herron, I will buy you a bowl of pho if you would like to attend the event.
No, my concern is if it affects other businesses on any type of event, that the neighbors do know that it's going to happen. So whether it's downtown or at a park or something.
We have a motion, I'll second that.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is a presentation by Courtney Marquez and Greg King from the Branding and Logo Task Force. Marquez.
Good evening.
Hi.
So my name's Courtney, and this is Greg. We're 2 members of about 11 of the Brand and Logo Task Force. So we were just going to give you an update tonight. I'll start with just scope of the work as we understood it when we were asked to be on the task force. So we have focused on the true brand and logo for the city. The seal is not part of the scope of work that we're undertaking at this point. I know that there's a couple of people on the task force who are interested if that is something that the city would like to see happen. But our scope was really focusing on a brand and a logo. So just so that you understand what that package will look like when it comes to you, for our recommendation comes to you guys for a vote or for implementation. Our goal is to provide you a whole set of branding guidelines. That includes palette of colors, tone and voice recommendations, visual identity. The logo is a part of that, and it's probably the most visual part, but it will be part of a whole package of the work that we've done. So our goal in the scope was to create something that would last the city some 10, 15, 20 years, with the idea that the logo and the brand would need to be updated at some point based on where we are in 10 to 15 years. Whereas my perspective on the seal is that's a historical document that really should focus on things about the city that won't change, and it's the same seal my kids should see in 100 years, whereas the logo and the brand will change as the city moves and updates their perspectives. So that's that piece, and Greg's going to talk about the phases of work that we've taken.
So the phases of work that we started with, we started back in June, and from June to August, we were in the discovery phase. At that point, that's what we were trying to figure out exactly where we're going as a task force, what we're going to be focusing on, how we're going to be gathering some information, and then we, before we move to the next phase, we created a discussion guide that will help us along through the listening phase. So through the listening phase, we set up meetings throughout the city to hear from community members throughout the city, to gather their perspectives on who Bethany is, where we're going, and things of that nature, just to gather perspectives throughout the community. Where we are right now, we are in the design phase, so we have met with everybody that we're going to be meeting with. We have put notes on a wall. We have put out words and ideas and things of that nature that that we have collectively heard across the city from the multiple meetings that we held. And we expect to be in this phase from now until about April. Coming May, June timeframe, we hope to have a design to present to you at that point. So.
You had mentioned something the other day when I was speaking with you of some of the things you guys heard that kind of surprised you. Will you share with the council some of those things?
So I'll just add that the listening phase was really important to the group. We looked around the table and said, this is one small group of citizens. We want what is the voice of the citizen across the various areas of Bethany, demographics, and so it was really important to the group that we didn't create something that when it rolled out, everybody kind of went, that doesn't resonate with me. That what city do you live in? So it was important that we listened. And so as we listened, again, we had a discussion guide to and we did these groups in person to help facilitate conversation, to understand why people answered the way they answered. And so the discussion guide really focused on questions like, if somebody had never been to Bethany and you were on vacation and you had to explain to them what Bethany was, what words or phrases would you use? Or how would you finish the question, the city of Bethany is really on the way up, neither on the way up or down, on the way down or really on the way down. So we were trying to really kind of get a perspective from folks. And it was really interesting trying to find, because what we really want the brand and logo based on are the common things that bind us, the things that pull us together and unify us as a city. But there were definitely some things there were some divisions within the city based on geographic location. So there were definitely people in various parts of the city who said, my part of the city is very different from the experience that the folks in these other parts of the city have. So it was interesting to hear, maybe those who live in the Main Street, Old Bethany area and their perspective on things versus those who live down in the 23rd Street area and their perspective on things, and then those who live over by Lake O. Very different experience. But the things that bind us, the things we heard from people that we are now working through, trying to figure out how to create that into a brand and a logo and some kind of visual representation, we're really focused on kids, family, roots. Lots of people talked about it being home. So they may have been raised here, left and come back home. They may have been raised here and said, this is where I decided to raise my kids so that they had the same kind of upbringing I had. There were people who'd only lived here a couple of years and yet considered it to feel like home. So we've really tried to focus on those commonalities, those pieces that they really talked about. And so there was lots of words like that we're playing with to create that into some sense of connectedness for the city. Do you have anything?
One other thing that we heard pretty consistently across the city, no matter where we met, everybody is seeing a slide up.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing progress. They are seeing hope. They're seeing something to believe in. I've seen on social media, there has been the hashtag Believe in Bethany. I think people are believing in Bethany because they're seeing the progress.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we heard pretty consistently across the city.
Anybody have any other questions?
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And I will add, I know that the process is probably taking longer than some would like, but what we hope is at the end it's something that you all can believe in and understand that it came from listening to the voices of the citizens, and it's something that echoes how they feel. So hopefully you'll feel that way when we bring you what we have. So
Thank you.
And whether you're the ones that are doing it or someone else, I really do think we need to revisit our seal.
I concur. Yeah. Thank you.
Item 3, adoption of resolution number 1497, supporting interjurisdictional efforts with the cities of Bethany, War Acres, Yukon, and Oklahoma City to revitalize the historic Route 66 corridor along Northwest 39th Expressway from I-44 interchange to Frisco Road. Do I have a motion and or discussion or questions?
Does everybody know about it?
Is there any
Yes.
report on this?
Well, I can give a report
Yeah.
on it. This is the efforts of 4 cities to try to have a unified approach and look and feel for revitalizing Route 66. This would be something that eventually we could potentially take off of ODOT's hands, and our section would be ours. And ODOT needed all 4 cities to make this happen because they needed terminating highway points, which is the I-44 interchange and then that of Frisco Road through Yukon. So it required all 4 cities to participate. So we contacted all the cities and we've been meeting, brainstorming, dreaming, and one of the ideas to be able to show that we were unified and this wasn't one city over the other, but all of us working together, was to adopt a resolution showing that. At our last meeting, OG&E was at the table because they were very interested in being a part of helping that unified look. And at our next meeting, ODOT will be at the table so we can pick their brain as to what they're willing to do and invest to help upgrade our sections of Route 66 before we contemplate taking it off their hands.
Are the other 3 cities on board with this same resolution?
This very day, War Acres and Yukon have adopted that in their council meetings. And since they meet before us, about 30 minutes to an hour, that's probably already happened. Oklahoma City will be doing this, I forget what day, the 27th or something like that, yeah.
Well, I think the mayor needs to be commended by getting to this point because this was his initiative on behalf of the city of Bethany to get these other municipalities on board. And it's interesting because, you know, there's been a recent mayoral election in Oklahoma City, but the fact is this is a Bethany idea, and we are at the point of leadership to get this moving, and I'm excited about it, and I think it's something that it'll be a good opportunity for all these municipalities to work together. This is one project, maybe there'll be another one.
Mr. Mayor, is this just a study group sort of to try to put things together, or is it a done deal?
It is not a done deal until ODOT comes to the table and lets us know
As
this is what.
ODOT said, well, we will know what ODOT will do if they say, well, we're gonna take a jackhammer to it, do it with 39th Street, and because we can't afford it. Well, the city of Bethany can't afford it either.
We would be, that's what our whole approach is to, as a joint effort, all four cities, to come sit down with ODOT and say, if you will do A, B, C, and D, then we're willing to take it off your hands.
So the cities are going to have some input.
We will have the input, and if they're not willing to do what,
If you not accept it, where do we go from there?
then I guess it doesn't happen.
Mr. Mayor, I think I already know the answer to this, but if this were to proceed, we would ask ODOT to make some significant investment before they turn it over.
Correct.
Is that accurate?
Yes. Does it- Yeah.
Also, I think it's important that the National Historic Trails Group are now working with naming Route 66 a historic trail across the United States. So the thing that has really bothered me in watching groups that cross on motorcycles or whatever, they'll come into Arcadia, stop at Pops, and then go down 35 and pick up 40, and they totally miss going through town. And so having us unified will help with directional signage, and I'd love to just see the Route 66 logo painted on all of the streets so people would know how to follow it. And that would require doing things together, and I know where the stencil is.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion for adoption of resolution number 1497.
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 4, adoption of resolution number 1499, supporting the mayor's efforts for the construction of a Veterans Memorial on the open area west of the Bethany Police Department through fundraising community donations. And-
Just have a comment on here. The name is Scott Stearman, not Spearman.
Yes,
The third
it is
whereas.
Stearman, yes. And do I need to talk about that again? We talked about it the last council meeting. Do we need any more discussion on that, or anybody have any
Make a motion.
questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Please cast your vote.
And thank you for working on that. I'm excited about this project.
I am too. And I think we're gonna go with your idea with those pavers. I think that's a great idea. Item 5 is approval of final plans and specifications for the Bethany Library Playground and authorize staff to solicit bids. Do we have a presentation?
I'd like
Or-
to table this. We've discussed it. We just received new emails at 4:48 and 5:02 PM, which I know at least 3 of us have not had time to review. I'd like to table it.
Today?
Actually, 5 and 6.
You're saying that you received an email today,
Received at 4:48 and 5:02.
yesterday?
I believe it was Robert. Was it today, wasn't it? I mean, and there were some bidding specs that we were still waiting to hear back on too. That I didn't get answered.
The bidding specs were in our packet.
They were incorrect from what we were told though, so I didn't know if they were gonna be changed to what we were told or what actually transpired. So I thought we would table it and so we had time to study it a little bit instead of just vote on it, but
How far do you want to push this project back?
I'm thinking 20 years? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
what kind of question is that? That's
Well-
a ridiculous question.
I don't know. I mean, that
That's-
was the same
I know you
excuse
got,
that
you
was
had a
used the
question
last time.
via email
I did.
wording today. Did you get that answered?
I have
Was
not had
answered?
that answered yet. I mean, we were told how an alternative bid would be put into the bid spec, and when we got the bid spec, it was not what we were told it would be.
It's in the bid spec several places.
You want to talk to her? You want to talk to me?
No,
I mean, according to me, it's not in there the way that we were told it would be.
I'd like to hear a report on this item number 5, whoever's gonna make the report.
Do we have anybody?
I appreciate the questions that I got from you the other day about the bid specifications. I think there may be just a misunderstanding. The information is in the specifications in about 6 different locations that specifically requires the process for the review and approval of substitution requests, and that document was issued to you last week as part of the agenda.
Right, and that's not what we were told. It would not be a submittal for a substitution. It would just be like kind. They would not have to submit to a predetermined manufacturer. They could just be or equivalent would be the verbiage, and that's all that's needed. Not a submission to, I don't know, to Mr. Caton, to you, to us. Who would you submit the specification to?
Well, the process that's outlined in the bid specifications, and just to back up for a minute, again, I'm Todd Oberding with the City of Bethany and representing the library interest in a part here. In putting together bid specifications, it's virtually impossible for any designer to establish 15 different products that would exactly be equal to each other. And so what they do, and what was done here and what was proposed 2 months ago when we started this process, the design process, is that we would put together a basis of design specification. And the basis of design specification there's 2 different processes that can be used. One is that the approval of the equipment that is proposed is approved after the bid, or in this case here, the approval of the material is approved before the bid. And that's what we've done here, is we've put together a set of documents working with the Bethany Playground Committee and with many of you to put together a set of documents that identifies our standards of what we want for the playground. And so the specifications outline a process whereby other manufacturers can make a substitution request. There's a timeline that they have to provide that information to the architect. The architect will sit down. We have scheduled meetings with the Bethany Playground Committee for the 12th or the 13th. We're still
Which
working
is
on
at a
that.
disadvantage to the person that the spec was wrote around, is what I'm getting at. I mean, I disagree completely that 15 manufacturers can't come up with equivalents. They absolutely can. Ford, Komatsu, Case.
Yeah, they can.
Volvo,
It's
they
done
can
all the time. It's done all the time.
Or equivalent.
It's,
But it's submitted as or equivalent, not pre. I mean, we've never done a playground equipment before. That's why I'm saying or equivalent is what we were told it would be.
and it
not
will
a
be.
submittal.
Well, what'll happen is when a manufacturer provides information for their proposed substitution, it'll be reviewed by Bethany's staff as well as Bethany's Playground Committee people as well as the architect, and we'll compare their products against what our standards have been established, which are in the bid specifications. And that material will be reviewed, and an addendum would be issued during the bidding process that said, yes, your material is equivalent to it or it is not. And if they're told in advance that it's not, then we wouldn't be accepting a bid from them. And so that process of establishing whether or not they match the standard will be established before we even take bids. And
That's the way to do it, you're right.
Right.
Or you put or equivalent. They're not gonna waste their time.
Right, no.
T6061 eliminates
That's right,
another
that's right.
equivalent. I mean, they're
That's right.
not gonna waste their time.
And I think that that's one of the fairest ways to approach these types of things, to give the bidders upfront knowledge of whether or not their material is equal. It also protects Bethany, because if you just take bids from everybody that thinks they have something equal to it, then we might have a low number that really isn't equal, but how do you argue against that.
I
So-
just think it's so, when you're writing a bid spec around one piece of equipment, and instead of just putting or equivalent, you're giving an advantage to that one source, but go ahead with your presentation, but I just don't agree with the process. It sounds like a sole source job.
No, it's not at all a sole source.
It makes it a lot harder for other bidders to put a bid in. A
Well,
lot
it's
harder.
like if you go out for bid and you say, you know, a Ford double cab, whatever, and you list all the specs that might go in a Ford, but you'll take a GMC, a Chevy, a Dodge, whatever. It's just that's the standard of what you want, and that's done a lot in bidding.
But
You
we
don't go through and list the
You don't
specs
make
for
those
every
manufacturers
possible
submit
kind.
to see if they can even bid. You just say we're
I think
equivalent.
there's also a matter of semantics, the word equivalent to substitute. That was an issue that I saw.
And that's the other
It's
thing, is
one-
who's it
But
submitted to?
Mr. Davis, you wrote those.
Yeah, it basically defines equivalency in terms of quality and function. So, for example, one of the things specified is a seat that's shaped like a ladybug, I think. Well, if somebody had the same type seat that was shaped like a turtle, that would be the equivalent, you know. That's just an example, but I'm sure they're. You're right, it is a committee and the architect, and I suppose ultimately you will be the final arbiters.
That You're entering an arena of taste at that point, instead of a ladybug versus a aardvark or whatever, too, instead of, is the vinyl, the plastic the same as the PVC, the same, you know, that's what I'm getting at.
The committee is seated right over here, and that's a committee that was formed to help make this park or this playground a inclusive playground so that able-bodied children and disabled children could play together side by side. So they've been picked, and they've been doing the work of trying to find the equipment that will make this probably one of the best playgrounds in the state, quite honestly. You'd have to ask Mr. Caton or Todd, I guess.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
If they want to.
It's not restricted. It's not restrictive in terms of.
I plan to play on the playground. I'm gonna play on the playground.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of item number 5 on the agenda.
I second.
Please cast your vote.
Then we can read it and find out what's in it.
Item 6 is approval of final plans and specifications for the Bethany Library Playground, amenities, and pavilion. Do I have a presentation? If not, do I have a motion or discussion?
One point I had,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
one of the issues was the safety concern related to the setback regarding the playground equipment. I think all of those issues have been addressed, and I'd like to compliment the P&Z Commission for addressing those issues so that we can move this thing along as soon as possible. So I think that process worked well, and there were probably some issues that could have been addressed earlier, but they were taken care of timely, and we made good progress. And I'm comfortable approving this as is once it has been revised. So
The point I was gonna make is that there are really two components of this. The actual playground itself will be built under the bid that you just authorized. The pavilion that's being constructed, that will be an approved change order with the contractor on the library, the Shiloh Company, and that will come back to you in the near future, a change order on that contract. So that's not part of the bid that you approved. That's really what this item it's for is to approve the plans and specs for the change order.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 7, approval of final payment to the Oklahoma Tax Commission for reimbursement of an overpayment to the city of Bethany. Do I have any presentation or explanation that's want to be given?
Well, I have an explanation, and it's just as confusing as the report that I wrote. As you all are aware, about a year ago, we started receiving payments from the tax commission that were not truly ours. We now are in the process paying that back monthly. We don't actually pay that back. They just withhold that from our tax payment. Because of that, if you notice, the Bethany newspaper last week showed that we had, I believe it was 11% decrease in our taxes, our sales tax. Well, that was not true. The truth is there was probably about a 6% decrease. The rest of it was actually the withholding of this amount of money, which is like about $26,000, $22,500. The point is that we have the opportunity to pay off the remainder of this amount, which is $185,631.09. Put us back to where we're supposed to be so we can actually accurately gauge what our gain and loss of our sales tax is. We have the money. Truthfully, in about a year, well, starting with the next one, it will be 1 year after we started receiving these payments. And if you're comparing this year to last year, and if we have, again, a decrease, plus they're withholding the amount that they withhold every month, plus the increase that we showed last year from the erroneous amount, we're going to have about a 20% loss in sales tax on the next newspaper. And that's not correct. The correctness is, of course, depending on the numbers, it's going to be about 6%. I think we need to correct that. We need to be, especially going into budget season, we need to be able to look at the numbers and go, honestly, this is what it is, and go from there. So I would suggest that we just pay off this amount. We have the money, and we can make the payment.
Where is the money that we have? You knew I was going to ask that, so you came prepared.
We knew well ahead of time that was going to be asked.
Perhaps I should get my glasses, but I've looked at these numbers a number of times. We have actually, I discussed this matter again with the auditor prior to working up the 2017 audit. So we have fully accrued this going back to February of last year to reflect in our books the change that should have been made had we been receiving the proper amount from the tax commission. So basically what we've done is we've taken our books and corrected them to the actual dollar amount they should have been. Okay? So I have accrued in other liabilities, and you'll see that in your financial statements. We still have $185,000 left to reimburse. It started out at $253,000, so we've paid down that much this quick.
I move that we make that final payment and that you sit down with the newspaper and straighten them out.
And that sounds like that'd be a function of our PR department.
Well, PR and finance, I think, together would best handle that.
And we'd be glad to anytime. Yeah.
I think so.
I have a motion, I have a second. Please cast your votes.
Thank you.
Item 8 is proposed executive session to discuss proposed and pending litigation concerning the following: Clearwater District Court, Oklahoma County application to vacate a portion of an alley behind 4703 North Peniel, and proposed filing of condemnation action against Trudy
Caprero, Mark and Brenda Gassett, and Raymond and Jennifer Burrell to obtain necessary sanitary sewer easements. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. We shall return.
Yeah, that sales tax overpayment is a good example of that which appears to be too good to be true.
Yeah, well, and I would hope that they would actually, yeah, you know, and, right, downtown merchant. Yeah, that's, I wonder if we should come up with something where. Welcome to the crowd.
Get signatures of your.
Well, and actually,
1,000 foot each
I think
direction.
that this is the first time we've actually done that.
It doesn't have that, it's just a press on it. There's no nail in there, it's a press on it. It's porous, like-
Ole, okay, thank you. We are back. Item 9 is proposed action to provide direction to the city attorney on proceeding with the proposed settlement agreement to reopen the alley behind 4703 North Penile. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 10 is proposed action to authorize city attorney to prepare necessary documents to commence condemnation proceedings for easements and further directions on the acquisition of the sewer easements for the Central Avenue Sanitary Sewer Project. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, and give appreciation to Meg Barton for the great job she's doing in getting the easements.
Please cast your votes. Item 11 is call to the public. Is there anyone that would like to address the council? Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and please
Yes.
address the council as a whole. Please state
Okay.
your name and address.
I'm Richard Wood, 1912 North Oak Hill Road. And I've got some comments or questions about upcoming changes in trash collection. I've talked with 2 city council persons and the mayor about this, And I've had perfect trash collection for 40 years here in Bethany. And I'm concerned about what happens when there's too much trash for one or two trash cans, or if it's of an odd shape, or what do I do with my 115 bags of leaves? Usually I have up to 20 bags at a time when they pick up the trash, and it's not all going to fit into one or two trash cans.
Would you like to answer that at all?
I can answer that, and you may not be happy with the answer you get, but as a citizen of Bethany who just has one or two trash bags full of leaves a year, I don't know that I'm really willing to supplement those who have that many trash bags every year, because those have to be taken and dumped in the sanitary landfill. If we still really haven't, truthfully, we still haven't gotten the policies worked out on that yet, exactly how we're going to do that. We're shooting for the first week in June to get this going, and so we still have a little bit of time to get the policies worked out.
Right. Well, I don't have a pickup truck, so I have no way of getting it to the trash collection place. They pick up maybe 20 bags at a time at the most, but I've never had any problem with the pickup, and I'm just concerned about a drastic decline in the quality of trash pickup that may be coming with the new changes.
Well, I think if you, for those who have never had the big trash cans, it's always, it's scary, but I think once you get it, you won't ever want to leave it. And when I moved back to Bethany from Oklahoma City, that was the thing that I missed the most, was having the big blue. And if you have two big blues, which everyone will have the opportunity to have two, other than, well, and even then, at 20 trash bags, you're going to be able to easily get probably 10. So in 2 weeks, you'll get rid of those trash bags.
Well, those are 39-gallon bags.
Well, those are pretty big trash bags. Yeah, we're going to have to work on a policy
Yeah.
for that. That's a pretty sizable load of leaves.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
There's a lot has to be considered in that.
Okay.
Gilbert Carlson, 2601 North Rockwell. It's time for my annual visit here to promote the Friends of the Library book sale at the fairgrounds this weekend. As you know, my wife, Watsell, is your commissioner to the library system. She's also very active in the Friends of the Library. The Friends of the Library have this monstrous book sale annually. This year there are over 1 million books available. It's probably the largest offering anywhere in the United States. And this one generates revenue of about $250,000 a year, which puts it in the top 3 nationally. There are somewhere between 300 and 400 people who volunteer off and on during the year, and as many as 600 total that participate as volunteers in putting this together. And what it does, it provides the opportunity for the libraries to ask for grants for funding on things that are specifically prohibited to them. For instance, they do not have the ability from their funds to have dinners or awards for employees that have achieved annual milestones or other outstanding awards. If the library has a need mid-year for some special equipment or kids' furnishings, additional books, or sometimes even whole trucks, this $250,000 that is raised in this once-a-year sale is available as a supplement. Plus, as several of you, like Mr. Harsman, can testify, it makes wonderful people watching to go down and watch people come through with trash bags, burlap sacks, the most innovative group of wagons and toys to haul their belongings off. It is open to the public, free of charge, at the fairgrounds Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 5:30. Then afterwards, schools and nonprofits are allowed to come in and shop for free. It is a big deal among homeschoolers and some of your smaller private schools. It's a lot of fun, it's a lot of work, and if you are a member of the Friends of the Library, which is a $10 annual subscription, you can go in Friday night and beat the throngs, or you can pick up one of our free tickets I'm going to leave up here and invite you to take advantage of the pre-sale on Friday night. I think you'll enjoy it. It's a worthy cause. It's very entertaining. And I will be sitting in the chicken cage with boxes of money. That's my role. They're the only people that trust me. So again, I'll leave these tickets up here, and we appreciate the opportunity to promote the Friends of the Library.
Thank you.
How do you get one of them boxes of money?
Yeah.
Is that, do
I
you
just
pick
look
one of
so
those up?
honest. You know, they're free, my friend. Would you like to?
Is there anyone else? Item 12 is the city attorney's report.
My items were listed on the agenda.
Item 13 is city manager's report.
I just have a couple of quick things. Southern Christian University has successfully completed all the requirements to receive its certificate of occupation. So we are done with that. That has been kind of a long time coming. The first time I was the interim was when we started that process, and we finally got to finish that this time, so that was a good deal. And the West Side Sewer Project continues on track. We really don't have a timetable for that because the weather, and there's so many different variables involved, but it is going very well. They are starting in Brownsville, hopefully next week, but again, there are so many variables involved. If anyone in Brownsville has any questions, you might contact Kathy Larson. We've gotten her some information, and she is, I think, pretty satisfied with what she's been given. So anyway, you might contact her, and that's all I have. Thank you.
13A is a quarterly financial report. Is that?
JR, you're up.
I've got some free tickets up here for sale. See me afterwards. Good evening, and it's always a pleasure to bring forth the financial condition of the city to you all. We've started doing it on a quarterly basis, and I've been asked to begin also bringing it in on a monthly basis. But on the quarterly basis, I like to be a little bit more elaborate, including other funds that we don't typically include, and some things that I think you might be interested in seeing. But just real briefly, our general fund is, our fiscal year revenues are about $174,000 under budget at this time, and that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody because of the situation with the sales taxes and so forth. However, our expenditures have been under budget by over $1 million, and again, that's as a result of delayed purchases and not making some of the investments that probably we haven't had time to make, right, Steve? We have, however, made the transfers to the general fund, and right now it stands at $2,057,000. The Bethany Public Works, they're running about $174,000 behind our budget. However, just in January, we did get $499,000, I believe, from FEMA, which was not included in this budget year. We expected it the year before, but when it didn't come in, I didn't put it in this year's budget, and sure enough, here it came in. So we'll be adding that to next year's budget for y'all's consideration. Their revenues have been $1.6 million under budget. So again, they're as a fund, the Public Works as a fund is still doing financially strong. Capital Improvement Authority, get back in focus here. They've received $225,971 in sales taxes and $534 in interest. So far, we've spent $32,965 for police department equipment, and IT projects were $32,965. The police department was $10,000. Now, the Bethany Development Authority, I elaborated on this time and included a statement in the back covering the beta operations. And because there's been quite a bit of confusion over that, and we were probably a little bit late in including the beta authority's financial information, okay? It took a while to get it operational on our accounting software. With that being said, we are, I believe, now all caught up. All the transfers that this council had authorized in the budget for the year have been made. So everything that we were going to invest into beta has been done. Now, out of that, we had already promised to pay $20,000 a year to the Bethany Chamber of Commerce, and we're making those payments.
I have a question on that. I remember making the motion to support the $20,000 contribution to the Chamber of Commerce if that money came from the hotel motel tax.
Yes.
So is the hotel motel tax now going to BETA?
Yes, we budgeted out of the general fund. We budgeted, I believe it was in the neighborhood of $68,000.
That's about what it is.
Which is about what the hotel tax is.
So
Okay?
that's going to BETA.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, at this point in time, we haven't refined it. It isn't dollar for dollar hotel tax, but it's we'll take another look at it soon.
Mr. Moore, you had a question?
I just had a comment. I long for the days, to correct you, for the Bethany Chamber of Commerce. I still have a sticker. I actually run Sports World, and most businesses have Bethany Chamber of Commerce. It's the Northwest Chamber of Commerce, but I long for the Bethany Chamber of Commerce to make it come back.
Well, I agree. And I also had a question from Councilman Herron about our unrestricted reserve funds and that sort of thing. And right now, at the end of December, we were at $20,561,000. Now, that's, while that, we say that it's unrestricted, it truly is. You all haven't committed it to individual projects or anything like that. But we do have projects in the mill that need to be taken care of at your discretion. So these are not surplus funds in that sense of the word. They are just simply funds that we have committed for future uses. If that helps make it any clearer.
But we have restricted funds for emergencies, right?
We have, in addition to these funds, yes, we have funds restricted for emergency purposes.
And what is that amount?
We have restricted, we just lowered it last year, but
I was thinking we lowered it to 20. Is that right?
No, we normally run about $300,000 in, just a minute here. We have, in the general fund, we have restrictions of $600,000 for the unforeseen contingencies. And let me find Public Works here. We have a similar amount reserved in the Public Works. So, all total, we normally run, for the restricted for contingencies, we normally run in the $1.2 million to $1.5 million range, so that we can handle those ice storm situations like so much of the state exhibited today. There's been a lot of trees knocked down, a lot of people without power tonight. Fortunately, knock on wood, it wasn't our turn, so.
I think
But-
we need to have a meeting pretty soon in regards to the restricted and non-restricted, so the council can get together and discuss
That can
it.
just be part of budget.
That's gonna be part of our budget.
Okay.
I believe it is. It's already funded. We haven't paid for it, all of it yet, but it is already. Yes, absolutely. It has been appropriated, and it will, it will be back into the budget process here in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
I do need to call your attention. You asked me to bring forth any budgetary adjustments that we've made. We haven't made any fund balance budgetary adjustments, but I've included a couple of schedules in this report that show you the interdepartmental adjustments, if you will, that we've made to the budget. These, the primary one came in because we didn't go and outsource for example, the trash service. We maintain that in-house. Well, we had reclassified all the trash service employees over to parks. Obviously, that didn't happen. So we had to move money back into refuse collection in order to pay the guys to come out and pick up our trash, which was a pretty necessary thing. So there's no increase in the amount of money we're spending, but simply we put it back where it came from. Now, there was one other item on here, $215,000, I think it was, that I'll call your attention because somebody will surely see it.
It's budget adjustment page 405 and 404 and 405, ADA compliance. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, and I have to apologize for that. For going back last fall, we had a number of issues come up with my getting the budget for the year into the system where it actually showed up. In some cases, the numbers I plugged in showed up in the following year. In other words, in 2019. I don't know how this happened. It did. This was one of those items that was not in the correct budget year, so I wanted to get it back into the correct budget year. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Item 14 is council members' announcements, comments, and proposals. Let's start down with council member Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to congratulate the council for a very productive meeting. There is one issue that I would like to bring up. I remember at some point receiving comments about people who have peeling paint citations and things like that. And the comment was, and I'm paraphrasing, well, why am I getting a citation for peeling paint when the guy down the street has 6 cars, and nothing changes at his house? Surely there's some kind of a situation there. So I don't understand the discrepancy related to code enforcement. And I would like to ask the city manager to come up with or do some type of investigation and provide a report for a justification as to the discrepancy related or apparent discrepancy related to the enforcement of the ordinances that we have, especially in Ward 2. I think that that's something we need to look into, and we need to provide a clear explanation to the residents so that they understand what we're doing. And if there is a problem, it needs to be fixed. And those ordinances need to be consistently enforced in such a way that it's fair to every resident within the city of Bethany. So I would like to make that request and ask that the city staff and city manager prepare a report for the council's review and consideration.
We will put that together. I did not, this is the first I heard that we were having a problem on that issue. And if I were to just off the top of my head say that the reason for that is because we have been pushing for more of a beautification of housing and put more effort into that, but we can certainly put more effort into rounding it out.
Well, in addition to that, there are other considerations related to the enforcement of ordinances as they would apply to the apartment complexes that we have in Bethany. If there are any provisions that are not being applied, they should be applied, and that should be a priority for the city related to those apartment complexes. Because if there's anything that we can do related to code enforcement to improve the situation, that should be a priority. And I hope that that's addressed in the report as well.
I agree 100%, and I will also address that at budget time.
Well, this is my last follow-up, Mr. Mayor. If there is a problem related to code enforcement by the city staff, then that needs to be taken care of, because there cannot be a double standard, and it has to be consistently applied throughout the whole city.
I agree. Agreed.
If that's not being done, it needs to be improved, the problem needs to be identified, and it needs to be taken care of in a timely manner.
Arlita?
And I will do a PS to that. Sometimes people don't understand that you can park more cars in your driveway and in your backyard than you can in your front yard and on the street. So just, maybe we need an education on code enforcement that somehow goes out on our television channel or something, so people know what can be enforced. And I'm looking straight at you because I know you're the one to do that now. I was noticing on the adjustments here about the ADA compliance, and I know we've talked about changes and improvements here in the council chambers, and I would just like a presentation on that sometime so we know what's forthcoming for the council chambers and ADA and what our plans are here.
Okay.
Maybe we're not ready for that yet, but
We're
that would be.
We're not quite ready yet.
When
We
we
know a
are, we'd
little
love to
bit.
hear it.
We know a little bit about what we hope to do, but other than to say that a little bit of ramping and stuff like that, but hopefully in our next meeting, we're gonna have a lot more idea about what it's gonna be.
Or we can learn how to do the Olympic ramps and fancy stuff. Okay, thank you.
Probably not that much, but.
Mr. Todd?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Moore?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Wood for coming out. And I did return your phone call. I talked to your wife. You were at the Y. So thank you for coming out.
Mr. Herron?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing, I would like to thank the task force that, or multiple task force that the city has. I appreciate their volunteering and their input, and that is all.
Mr. McCutcheon?
I kind of have a little follow-up to Steve, Councilman Palmer. Do we have an ordinance on how many cars can be at a home? I do not know that, because coincidentally, he doesn't know that I was gonna say this, but he has a pastor that's one of my constituents that I've spoken to many times about his next door neighbor who, it's cars that he parks across the street at a curb legally, not illegally,
but has approximately 8 cars, and approximately, from what I've driven by and have seen in the past. And on the other side of his house, there's stuff stacked from the ground to the ceiling on the front porch of this home. Coincidentally, I won't say our judge's name, but it's on the same street as our judge, and she won't complain about it. I don't know what can be done. There's cars that are, have out-of-date tags for 5 years.
Well, if there's a car on the street, it has an out-of-date tag, or
It's
it has
it's not on the
flash.
street, I can't say that. But cars in the driveway that do have out-of-state, not out-of-state, out-of-date
Out of date.
tags.
It's, if the car is legally parked and it's up, the tag is up and the wheels are all up, there's nothing you can do about that if they're legally parked. There is no set number of cars that
Right.
you're allowed to have. If they're parked in your driveway, I do believe that they still have to be on all 4 tires, and they still have to, I'm not sure about the tag.
Yeah, they have to have a current tag.
Have to have a current tag.
Otherwise, they're classified as a derelict vehicle.
And,
Mr. Mayor,
So
if I,
that probably, what you described is probably several violations.
Mr. Mayor,
we don't have to have a complaint to investigate. And so somebody will just let us know, but we've got, it may not seem like a very big city, but if there's 6,500 houses and locations for the one guy to check who happens to be having some health issues right now, we're gonna get a little bit behind. And
Sure.
we just need to know about them, and we need to work on them. But we need to know about them. But you don't have to sign a complaint, just let us know an address or an approximate address, and we'll hunt them down.
Mr. Shirey?
Yes, sir. I only have one thing to say, and dittos to Mr. Palmer on your statements. You have a friend over here on this side of the council. Now, only on those objects.
Mr. Knapp?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to say thank you, JR, for the financial report. I know you're not the only one that works on this kind of stuff, but thanks for your diligence. I want to echo what Mr. Carlson said. You get a shot of that? If you can't volunteer at the book sale, I would be remiss if I did not say, my wife being a librarian, go buy books, read books, give books away to kids. Lastly, with the change of weather, stay warm, drive safe. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may have a
nothing
sir
to-
reply.
oh. Excuse me?
That's a sir reply. It's a technical term.
Okay, listen. I'm in charge of this meeting, right? Let's just get this clear. I have nothing, so I'm going to give you a little bit of my time because I know you had something else to say. Because you kept saying something down there in the microphone.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity. With that said, I would like to supplement my responses related to code enforcement. If we can, and if it's a viable option, we need to look at other municipalities to determine what they do in the situation that we have. And there needs to be a recommendation from the city staff providing a solution to those problems, because there are problems. And I'm not in the business, the people who elected me, the residents of Bethany, are not in the business of listening to excuses. They need solutions to the problem. And that's a priority for me, and I would ask the staff to include that as a part of their investigation and report. Thank you.
Item 15, new business. Does anybody have any new business they want to bring up? With no new business, we're adjourned until March 6, 2018. I call to order the Bethany Public Works Authority. Item 1 is consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Second. Please cast your votes.
Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, we are adjourned until March 6th, 2018. Call to order the Bethany Hospital Trust. Item 1, consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, we're adjourned until March 6, 2018. I call to order the Bethany Development Authority. Item 1 is consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say a comment, and I'm going back to comments, but it's kind of new business. So I forgot to say this is Bethany Restaurant Week. Everybody needs to go out and eat in Bethany. That's it.
All right. With no more new business, we are adjourned until March 6th, 2018. And with that, we are adjourned.
How many seminars?